à-bas-le-ciel.
To me, looking back on this, I mean, 5 years in the future, 10 years in the future, when people were asking, what was this dream? This dream that took the internet by storm for a short time and then it died. How did people convince themselves that eating 11 mangoes a day or 30 bananas a day, that this was not just something you should do, but something you should get on the internet and boast about? That this was the crux of a social change, of a moral change, of a transformation of our society. It's just bizarre.
À-bas-le-ciel.
YouTube is like the only club in town that's open after 3 a.m. You don't go there because it's good. You go because you don't have a better alternative. And the people you meet there, too, aren't good. They're the people who just don't have anywhere else to go. What I do on YouTube is not activism. It is merely better than nothing. A lot of us simply don't have much to give and don't have better options. The choice is, be honest about it, as opposed to being on an insane ego trip. A lot of us in the last 5 years have witnessed the rise and fall of an insane ego trip. Still today, there are some people who are simultaneously buying and selling a dream that just can't be true. What is that dream? It's hard to talk about it now that it's finally dying, now that it's finally become something that's laughed at and regarded as embarrassing within veganism. The dream was that you could quit your day job, live on permanent vacation, make money promoting your lifestyle, and at the same time wrap that all up in the self-satisfied confidence that you were doing the most you can for the animals, for the environment, for the future of the planet, that you were making the world a better place through a new and thrilling form of politics that's almost completely apolitical. Because putting on a bikini and going to the beach is about the least political thing you can do. And yet it was glorified very seriously by so many people as activism. And tacked onto this, strangely, was this idea of unlimited calories, that you should feature yourself eating insane quantities of bananas, mangoes, dates, a list of almost arbitrarily chosen high-calorie foods. This was a sort of package deal, a sort of ersatz ideology. It was an ersatz ideology that for a couple of years there seemed like a dominant element of veganism, animal rights, and ecology. And it seemed that way because so many people were vocally promoting it on the internet. A small number of people through the internet can cast a big shadow. They can have a big impact, especially when they are fanatical believers in the idea that they're not merely pursuing fame, money, sex, ego, but that they're actually, making the world a better place at the same time. And when the outcomes are for them guaranteed, right? Outcomes as diverse as weight loss and fame itself. That if you just follow this simple formula for making and uploading videos, the fame that a very small number of other people have had can be reproduced for you in your life. You'll be able to pay your bills, basically by exploiting your own beauty, even if you ain't beautiful. Now look, this is one example. Obviously, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of examples, and you're going to see why I chose this. This is not a bad example. This is, if anything, an above-average example. This young woman uses the screen name Mo Candy. I guess her full name is Moira Candy, something like that. Objectively, she's good-looking. Not my type, not a subjective statement, but I mean, she's slim. She has piercing blue eyes. She has a lot of body art. She has a lot of tattoos. And even more rare, she has a huge advantage of living in one of the only places in the world, one of the few places that does have a big vegan population. She lives in Portland, Oregon. So she has the possibility to promote her channel really through a network of people who know each other face to face. It's a huge advantage most of us don't have. Most of us online, we're the only vegan in our town, or we don't know or get along with even 2 or 3 other vegans. And this young woman put quite some work into her Instagram account, into her videos, and so on. And nobody cares. Nobody cares. Obviously, after this video, maybe some of you are going to go check out her channel. Maybe she'll gain some fans from this. But, the brutal reality that this ideology was ignoring is basically the same that you'd have in something like music. I mean, you can't point to a jazz musician and say, look at that jazz musician. He makes plenty of money. Therefore, if you just start playing jazz music, you'll have plenty of money too. No. The vast majority of jazz musicians spend years of their lives developing their craft, practicing, playing gigs, and nobody cares. And there's no fame, and there's no money, and they don't become sex icons. Is it even 1 in a million? I mean, today in 2016, if you want to be a jazz musician in the year 2016, it has to be for some other reason. It cannot possibly be for money, fame, sex, or any of those things that come with success. You have to be motivated by the art form itself, or by, some charitable instinct. I have no idea. I mean, if you're a jazz musician these days, you probably do gigs out of charity, going and playing at old folks' homes and that kind of thing. I've known some jazz musicians. Well, I use examples like that. It is what it is. It's an art form. But, at least jazz musicians don't think they're saving the world. And, all these strange elements of it. Yeah, so I just say a few more comments about Mo Candy. As I say, she is better looking than average by far. A lot of people trying to play this game do not have her unfair advantages in that respect. She also is way more intelligent than average. And you guys may think that's a backhanded compliment, because obviously there are some remarkably stupid people who are in the high-carb, low-fat echo chamber. But she does actually have some monologues about the meaning of culture, and, she has some reflections that show that she's actually working with quite a few brain cells.
So, is culture a good or a bad thing? Ask yourself, is the things that you're thinking the product of social conditioning and cultural, whatever, or is it your actual thoughts? Is it coming from innate inside you? So, yeah.
But still, it's weird. Why the hell would anyone wake up and eat 5 mangoes for breakfast? Okay, I hope this isn't too shallow for you guys, but I do want to pause on this for a minute. This young woman lives in Portland, Oregon. That's very, very close to where I was living in Canada until recently. I was living in Victoria, BC. So by boat, they're incredibly close together. It's just down the coast, a short distance. I have also in the past lived in Thailand, Laos, Cambodia. I'm living in China right now. So, I know mangoes. I know mangoes in Asia. I know mangoes in that part of North America. I'd be lucky in Victoria to get a lousy mango for $1. Generally, you could only get a mango for $1 if the store messed up its order, had too many mangoes, they were getting overripe, they were trying to sell them off as quickly as possible. One mango in Victoria, $2, $2.50, routinely $2.99 each. For each mango, $2.99. That's $2.99 Canadian, not US dollars. But nevertheless, my point is, in that part of the world, whether it's Portland or Victoria, mangoes are very expensive and they are also low quality. When I lived in Thailand and Laos, by contrast, mangoes were extremely cheap and extremely high quality because they're farmed locally. Even when I was out there just getting a ton of exercise, just coping with life. If you guys are new to my channel, I did humanitarian work, I did research, I was studying languages. I was not on permanent vacation. I was never on vacation. I was working my ass off intellectually and otherwise, and trying to do humanitarian work. I did manage to do a little bit of humanitarian work, but you do a lot more trying than you do getting in that field. I can remember eating 3 mangoes in a day. I don't know, maybe if they were small mangoes, maybe in the whole day I ate 4. But this young woman in Portland had 5 mangoes for breakfast, and then another 6 mangoes in the rest of the day? 6 mangoes for dinner? She ate 11 mangoes in one day. And I don't know, $20 worth of mangoes in one day? In many different ways, this is both not sustainable and frankly even disgusting. I've eaten a lot of mangoes. I mean, the quality of mangoes you can get in Portland is garbage compared to other places I've lived, but I honestly would feel revolted to eat that many mangoes in a day, even if I had the money to waste. So, I mean, okay, obviously, this is shallow, but, I mean, to me, looking back on this, 5 years in the future, 10 years in the future, when people were asking, what was this dream that took the internet by storm for a short time, and then it died? How did people convince themselves that eating 11 mangoes a day or 30 bananas a day, that this was not just something you should do, but something you should get on the internet and boast about? That this was the crux of a social change, of a moral change, of a transformation of our society. It's just bizarre. It's really hard to figure out even now. Now, and also, when I say the dream is dead, in my own lifetime, I have to compare it to 1989, the end of communism, the fall of the Berlin Wall. Now, of course, you can't call it the end of communism. Communism is still a very powerful, very influential ideology. But, before 1989, before the fall of the Berlin Wall, many people felt completely justified in making excuses for communism, making excuses for mass murder. I heard it all the time, and it would be on mainstream TV, on the nightly news and public access. They'd have representatives of the Communist Party and the communist viewpoint sitting there and in a sort of respectable manner making excuses for mass murder and mass starvation, other unbelievable failures of communism. And after 1989, that's what ended. The dream didn't die. In some ways, the dream never died. There will always be dreamers. There will always be true believers. Still today, there are people making excuses for the high-carb, low-fat lifestyle and unlimited calories, and making excuses for the idea that YouTube activism is the most effective activism in the world. But it has become embarrassing.
Hashtag save the animals. Hashtag cruelty free. Hashtag so vegan. Hashtag vegan activism.
It ceased to be a dominant ideal. It ceased to be an ideal people even feel comfortable, making excuses for. It's regarded increasingly with a kind of mute embarrassment. And, that's a change. I've done my part to, my small part to instigate, expedite, and guys like Vegan Cheetah also, those are things that I have in common with Cheetah, even though we're such different people in so many ways, What was the dream? What was the dream that just died? You guys have heard me say in many other videos before, as soon as money, sex, and fame are brought into the picture, people will do anything to get them. People will do anything to keep them. They'll lie, they'll cheat, they'll steal, they'll stab each other in the back. But above and beyond that, they'll also just censor themselves.
And these Patreon vegans won't give their nuanced opinion of anything that goes against the grain. Because if they do, they're going to lose money, they're going to lose Patreons.
There have been a lot of reflections lately from people on the kind of fear that Freelee seemed to inspire in others. That people were afraid to admit they gained weight. Oh, gee, you eat 11 mangoes in a day and you gain weight. What a shock, Or people were afraid to admit that they stopped eating in this crazy way. This young woman I chose in Portland, Mo Candy, I just checked her Instagram. She has changed her diet. She's switched to eating a much more balanced diet with a lot of grains involved, and she even admits that she now drinks beer. What a shock. So she's now given up many of the crucial tenets of the high-carb, low-fat lifestyle. Not all of them, maybe, But, having having grains as the staple of your diet as opposed to mangoes as the staple of your diet makes a lot of sense, even if you live in Southeast Asia. But, people who would lie about gaining weight, people who would lie about curing diseases that they never cured, even simple things like acne, people claiming they've cured their acne and you see them 2 weeks later and they've still got acne or the acne came back. But, claiming they cured all kinds of diseases that are not curable. I can mention examples of that, including people who've become disillusioned, like Henya. Henya has talked about Henya Mania. Some of her health conditions simply came and went. She would have them temporarily. She'd get symptoms for a while and then they'd become asymptomatic. And when she was a true believer, she attributed this to the high-carb, low-fat diet, to the fruit-based diet. And she was claiming or insisting back in the past that she had cured these conditions. But when they came back, when the symptoms returned, then she'd be caught in a sort of cognitive dissonance trap. And the question would be, are you going to lie to the public? Are you going to claim you're still cured? Or are you going to be honest about it? So, yeah, the faith healing element, the natural medicine element, the delusions of fruit being better than modern medical science, those were also aspects of the dream that have died. There is no known cure for Crohn's disease, people, and there is no neurotoxin in garlic, etc., etc. And even though I disapprove of coffee, I'm anti-caffeine myself, I have to admit there are millions and millions of people who manage their caffeine usage without having serious negative side effects in life. I still implore you, I still think you should try to have zero caffeine in your life if possible, or as close to zero as possible. That's my opinion, but I'm not going to make a pseudoscientific or pseudo-religious argument as to why you have to agree with me, or why you're a fake vegan if you don't. So, look, I mean, there are just so many of these channels where, like the jazz musician or what have you, at the end of the day, you got to say, oh, nobody cares. You're beautiful, you're doing lifestyle activism, you're in the bikini, you're doing everything right, you're following the whole formula. But nobody cares because you were making a pitch for fame within a tiny subculture that's already oversaturated with meaningless vanity. And as I say, the kind of fishhook effect here, like once you're in, you get hooked. Once you get that little bit of fame, are you willing to tell difficult truths? Are you willing to challenge your audience or challenge yourself? Are you willing to say things that will risk your losing followers?
And these Patreon vegans won't give their nuanced opinion of anything that goes against the grain. Because if they do, they're going to lose money. They're going to lose Patreons. And the fact is, the main people that suffer for this are people who want to go vegan. So the main fact that you're financially exploiting other vegans for your own personal gain is fucking disgusting. And a real vegan wouldn't do that to other vegans, unless... Oh my god. They're not even vegan at all. They're crab people. We are the crab people! I did donate to certain YouTubers who have Patreon accounts who claim they're vegan activists in order to get a shout out, because it said if you donate a certain amount, they will give you a shout out. I was never reciprocated for my payment, and the fact is these YouTubers, social media personalities, are running these Patreons, and I'm pretty sure I'm not the first one for this to happen to. And don't donate to these people if you think you're going to get reciprocated.
The Veg Bro here, I thought, had some really interesting reflections on that. He's partly reflecting on the dishonesty of how Patreon works in other ways. Paying money to someone and hoping that they're going to promote your YouTube channel in exchange. As you guys may have noticed, I promote a lot of other YouTube channels here because I sincerely believe they're worth watching. And nobody pays me for that. But hey, join my Patreon anyway, because Patreon right now is the only income I have on planet Earth. But look, I am exactly the kind of person who's still going to take those risks, because my personal integrity means more to me than $100, and it means more to me than $1,000. And that attitude has gotten me into trouble my whole life. I have quit jobs over a point of moral principle again and again and again. When I was in Cambodia, some of the research we were doing, it was immoral. I'm not going to tell the whole story. It'll make this podcast too long. So many situations where I've had to say, I can't do this job. I can't continue to do this job for ethical reasons. But, you know, that is a really nasty fishhook. Once you've made those sacrifices for that fame, for that little bit of money, are you willing to say things that you know will challenge your audience? Like, hey, pet ownership is a lot more morally complex than we want to admit it is. It's a lot more morally dubious. There are hard issues, hard questions to ask there as vegans. Are you willing to admit that you kill insects? Or are you going to come on and do the dishonest thing Gary Yourofsky did and claim that he literally never kills a mosquito, never kills a bed bug, never kills insects of any kind? Or are you willing to talk about hard truths, even if it could hit your pocketbook, even if it could destroy your following? And I mean, I say it's a fish hook because, I mean, once you're hooked, it's so hard to get the hook out. There's also sorrow involved. There's also the sacrifices you've made. Lately, I met some people on the internet, including people who wrote me letters within Patreon that were really interesting. You know, people who paid the $1 join on Patreon, and then they talked to me. Patreon is now my main social media platform, whatever you want to say. And I said, oh, wow, you know, this is really interesting. Like, can I talk to you? Can I interview you by Skype and then upload that interview as a podcast or on my YouTube channel? And some of the people say no, because they do not want to expose themselves to death threats, to ridicule, to doxing, to, you know, they do not want to expose themselves to exactly the kind of things I myself have endured. Now, you know, because they're real people who have real jobs and real lives, and there's a real risk involved. That's very sad too. So, I mean, the people who are not motivated by fame may instead be motivated by fear. Once you're in the game, once you've shared your life on the internet, once you've made those sacrifices, are you willing to question publicly maybe some of the things you used to believe in that you now know are dead wrong? Whether that's eating 11 mangoes a day, or even just the idea that what you're doing on the internet is activism and really helps people and has real world outcomes. Or does all of that have to be silenced to keep up a public image that pays your rent if you are in the tiny, tiny minority of people for whom the dream pays off and for whom your web presence does pay your rent?